Are you ready to learn how to hire your first admin virtual assistant? Now, in this video, I'm going to walk you through step by step the process of what it looks like to hire your first admin virtual assistant for your business, or maybe even just for yourself. I'm going to break down the things you need to prep, the things that you will need to go through as you go through the hiring process, the post-hiring process, as well as, of course, best practices from someone who's been hiring virtual assistants in the last 4 years. So make sure to watch until the end of this video for that whole thing. First part is that prep work of what do you need to actually prepare before you hire a virtual assistant, especially of an admin virtual assistant. Now, I want to define first what an admin virtual assistant is. It's basically a person who is taking care of more of the back end operational things that need to be done in your business. So it could be anything from email and calendar management. It could be client management even. It could also be creating reports or generating reports, or it could be something as big as maybe even managing freelancers or other employees in the business. Now, the first thing that you want to do is to go ahead and find out what your 80-20 is when it comes to that part of your business. So when it comes to hiring someone, you want to figure out what are the right things to delegate to them versus just delegation by education. So what I mean by 80-20 is based off the Pareto principle, is generally speaking, out of the 10 things that you're doing, only 2 things are actually moving you forward in your business. So we want to delegate and automate the rest. So as a really good example, let's say for my own day-to-day, when it comes to the email calendar management, when it comes to managing our own clients and their virtual assistants, when it comes to the internal projects we have into XU, a lot of that, honestly, the main thing that I really need to show up for are the client calls. That's it. Like, everything and anything else, I can show value in doing my own email, doing my own calendar management, but my assistant really takes care of a lot of those. So you want to assess what are the things that you're doing daily, weekly, monthly, or things that you're doing in your business from the different areas as well, to see what are the things that you can easily start giving to other people, and what are things that you probably should never even delegate in the first place. Like, I've seen a lot of people make the mistake of delegating a key task or outcome in the business without automating it, without making it easier for the next person to follow through, and then things start falling apart. So you want to make sure, again, that you do have that clarity, that you do have the assessment, you've gone through it, and you are intentionally delegating a few things to that admin VA. Next is you want to hash out your preferences. Now, based on the list of tasks and outcomes that the VA will be doing, would you need someone who's full-time or part-time? In 2XU, we're only really working with clients looking for full-time EAs, mostly because then the executive assistant isn't thinking of like, oh, I have to do this work for my next client, or I have 3 other clients I'm managing at the same time. You have that one-on-one kind of really, we call it, your second brain experience, because that person's only really thinking about working with you. They're not worried about a bajillion other things for another client. But again, depending on the size of your business, depending on that 80-20 that you've done, you might just need a part-time assistant. You want to also hash out if you want them to be working on your hours. If you're in the US hiring from the Philippines, there is that big time gap basically. So keeping that in mind of, do you want your EA to be working as you are, or you want them to be maybe working your midnight onwards, but then they're able to get a lot of things done even without you there. You also want to figure out what does a perfect VA look like for you. Let's say they've been working with you for the last 6 months to a year. What personality types do you need a person to be? So for example, for me, I really need someone who is very sweet but can get things done and can give me feedback. And my assistant honestly fits all of those, because I need someone who can empathize with me, but at the same time, once I'm in the getting things done mode, she's right there with me. So knowing myself and what works with me, I've been able to find that assistant. So this is why hashing out your preferences helps, versus like later on figuring out like, oh, I actually don't want that kind of person in my life, in my business. I actually want to, this kind of personality type, this kind of soft skill. You want to figure that out as early as now. Next is you want to prepare your budget. Now, I always say don't hire an assistant just because you did this really big launch and have a lot of money. You need to have recurring revenue to support an assistant. It can't be just one-off if you really want to have an admin virtual assistant take care of you and the business, because once your money runs out, that means that they're going and they're finding another job, and it's going to be harder for you to keep someone. So this is why it's really important to look at like not just the monthly expense of having an assistant, but yearly expense. Like, how long is your runway of having a virtual assistant, especially if they're not working on immediately the revenue generating tasks or outcomes in your business. You want to make sure that you have enough support and runway to be able to keep having your assistant well employed, well taken care of, so they don't have to worry about finding another job within the next month. Next is then you want to start crafting your job description. Now, one thing that I do always recommend for people is put in an Easter egg. So what an Easter egg is in the description itself, as you're writing out their roles, responsibilities, what the day-to-day looks like, is you put there, on your subject line, make sure you add this word, or in your application letter, add this word, or your resume, make sure to add this word. So it could be literally superhuman virtual assistant, just adding that to their resume, because that adds the filtering also of, did they read the job ad or are they just mass applying? Makes it easier for you to just delete people who do not match, basically, because then you don't really want to work with those people anyway, because they're not even reading instructions in the get-go of just the job ad itself. Next is you also want to prepare the skills test for the virtual assistant applicants who are starting to come in. So a simple skills test could literally be almost anything. It could be, let's say you're using Notion as the tool for your business. It could be like, hey, create a Notion page based off of my business website. Or it could be, hey, organize the information on my website using a Notion page, use tabs, database, blah, blah, blah. It could be through Google Sheets or Google Docs. Just a way for you to verify that they actually know how to do the things that you need to get done. It could be summarizing a YouTube video that you have. It could be generating a report from a very generic set of data you might already have. So just have a way that you can actually test out if their skills match or not. Now let's go into the hiring funnel. That was basically your prep work. It's knowing what to delegate. It's knowing your preferences. It's also knowing your budget and preparing essentially already the job ad and the skills test. Now onto the hiring funnel. First is of course just posting on usual job ad sites. There's onlinejobs.ph if you are hiring from the Philippines. There's of course LinkedIn. There are so many other websites out there that you can start just posting a opening that you might have. You might even just post it on your own website and then just start sharing it on social media. Whatever that looks like, it is best to just start putting out there so you can see the quality of applicants coming in. Next is go ahead and ask for referrals. You might have a Facebook group that you have basically the same mind hive of people who are in there. Ask them for referrals. It could also be your friends of like, hey, have you worked with an assistant before? Do they have a friend or do they have a family member who might be looking for work? So asking for referrals just makes it a little bit easier for you to filter people through because they were already vetted out by someone else, or that you can easily talk to the person who referred them, and that's what would be the best way to work with them. Next is of course just starting to filter applicants as they start coming in. This is the reason why we have the filtering job ads, so they can easily mass delete people who are not a match. There's also the process of looking through their skills test, and then you get to the point where you're going to interview these virtual assistants to see if they're a match. Now honestly, when it comes to the interview portion, you're no longer really testing if they have the skills or not. You should have been able to see that through their resume, their skills test, or in the application letter itself. The interview is more of just seeing if you guys can work together back and forth. You can ask them questions of like, hey, what's your work from home setup? Hey, what would you do if your internet went out or your electricity went out? Just more logistics as well. And then it's going into asking them questions of how they could fit in your business. Now, I do have a ton of videos on interview questions to ask when you're hiring a virtual assistant, so I won't go down them a lot in this video, but a ton of it is their communication style a match to yours? Are they able to give examples of certain situations that you've asked for? Are they willing to learn? Are they willing to grow within your business? Or even better, do they understand your industry and how they can help? So having those different criterias and levels of understanding of like, hey, this is the person for me, is going to be of course really essential in this part of the hiring process. Next is, let's say that you've gone through the process, you've gone through the hiring funnel, you have your person, amazing, congratulations. Now into the actual work to be done when it comes to working with an admin VA. First is making sure that you guys have a good onboarding process. It's making sure that you cover the tools that they need to use or learn if they've never learned it before. And what does a 90-day of work look like? Now, most of the time I will honestly say that just plan out 30 days, but for an admin VA, because they're going to be taking care of a lot of the recurring, daily, weekly, monthly tasks, a 90-day run rate is better because then you can see how they're doing their recurring tasks, as well as how they're adjusting to newer things that they may be doing from time to time, like the ad hoc tasks basically. So slowly map that out to them depending on the priority on your end of what are the things that you really need to delegate versus the things that are, they need more access, they need more prep time, they need more training before the assistant can actually work on them. Next is documentation. So it's important that now you have your assistant, if you haven't already created static work procedures in your business, is that they can go through videos maybe you've created like video or Loom screen recording videos where this is how you do XYZ in the business, maybe having the assistant then turn that into a text documentation so they have a quick checklist of how to do certain things in your business. It's also creating the assets, the templates, especially if you've been doing this all on your own as a solopreneur and this is your first time having an assistant. Walking your assistant through of how things are done just through video and then having them convert that into an actual documentation will make your life just so much easier because you don't have to do them yourself, and you get to see if the assistant actually understood the assignment or understood what it is they're trying to give to them or delegate to them as a task. Next is set up regular communication systems. So in other videos I've talked about, for me and my assistant, we have a daily sync, we have a weekly sync, and a monthly retrospective. So on the daily sync, usually it's just 10 to 15 minutes. Some days we even skip it nowadays because we've been working together for a year and a half. But it's usually just going through what was done yesterday, what's the focus for today, and any bottlenecks that they might have. Now again, during that onboarding program, it's really crucial to have that daily sync because then it's the easiest way to, one, train them, two, give them tasks, and three, identify if you might be missing instructions or access that you need to give to them. Then the weekly sync is usually just a review of everything else. So it's a top down basically review. So for me and my assistant, we go through what happened last week, what are the projects and focus for this week, and then also talking about anything else that might be going on within the week. So it's more of just that top overview. The daily thing is more just like, okay, this is what's happening. And then the monthly retrospective is going through wins, bottlenecks, things that happened in the last month, as well as also picking basically the priority project that we have for the next month. That's basically why it's important to have these regular communications, because it's so easy, especially if you've been doing it on your own, you've been a solopreneur, to think that just because you thought one way that your assistant already instantly understands it. It's important to build that communication style, your own language basically with your assistant, so then it gets to the point where they know what they're supposed to be doing without you prioritizing them, just because early on you did put in the work basically to prep and train them in the first place. Next is making sure that you set up a really good delegation system. So this isn't just giving them tasks, this is also how they capture tasks and putting it into the task management system. So how do you know, for me, for example, I don't have my phone here right now, but usually I would just click on my phone, I would do a voice note to my assistant if I'm trying to give her a task, or if it's just a quick chat that I want to send to her. There's a quick way that for her, she grabs that from WhatsApp basically and now puts it into Notion, then she can start sorting it out. So there's a good system of chain of events basically that happens after I delegate a task to her. So try to find out what that looks like for you and your assistant, so that process is a little bit easier. Now, a few best practices when it comes to hiring and working with an admin VA. First one is hire slow, fire fast. Now, I've seen this happen so many times within 2XU where a client would just want to hire whoever's the first person that we present to them, and I'm like, no, take the time to actually see, here are 3 other profiles of 3 other people who would actually be the best match. When you try to hire fast, when you try to grab anyone who would come in, you've not really filtered them enough to know if they could fit and work in your business. And then of course later on your business will suffer and it's going to be a whole hullabaloo of trying to figure out what to do with your assistant. So this is why I mean, take time when it comes to hiring. Yes, right now things feel urgent, right now things feel overwhelming, but better to have that extend just a little bit more to find the right person rather than finding the right person and then more stress added on later on. And what I mean by fire fast is just give feedback faster. This is something that I have not done so well myself as a manager and leader, because I do like trying to give people a benefit of the doubt or better chance to do next time. But if there is something to give feedback on, to give clarity on, don't just say, oh no, it's okay for now. Give them your expectation of like, this is okay for now, but this is something I'm looking forward to in the future. Because then for you can start seeing the red flags as they come in and start flagging them basically if they're not doing well, and be able to give them that feedback early on rather than things piling up and never being given as feedback. Next is just get help from experts. If you're feeling lost, if you don't know what to do, this is what agencies like us at 2XU are for basically, is we do have the expertise in hiring and managing executive assistants, at least for us. And if you're interested in all of that, there's the scorecard below for 2XU. However, what I'm really talking about here is feel free to ask other friends that you might have who've had virtual assistants. Look at their best practices as well, especially if you find someone similar to your industry, like you guys are working in the same field, you might have different audiences, you're not a competition to each other basically. So then you can see how it works for them, so you can start applying a few of the best practices to yourself. And finally, keep in mind that you're looking for a partner, not a yes person. What I mean by this is that's usually the difference between hiring someone who's a virtual assistant and someone who's an executive assistant. Is a virtual assistant, because of who they are and the need usually when someone hires them, they're usually a yes person. They're usually, yep, I'll figure that out. Yep, I'll do this. Yep, I'll do whatever it is that you've asked me to, versus thinking of a partner, of someone that you're building this business with. And that's honestly how I think of my assistant, is she's become kind of that partner within when I need someone to brainstorm with, when I have problems, when I have things that I want to hash out with her, because I know, like, and trust her, that I've grown her enough in the last year and a half that she can give me feedback on how to do things better. She knows my own preferences. She knows basically how I think. So then we have that good back and forth and partnership all together. So you want to think of that, of like, you don't need a yes person in your business, because if that's the case, then probably not a virtual assistant, might be just a freelancer. You need someone who can grow into becoming a partner in your business. Now, they might not start that way. They're probably just here because they really need a job, but you want to develop their mindset to getting to that point, because that's basically how truly you can get someone who becomes your second brain. Now, if you guys liked this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button right there and comment below what kind of assistant are you looking for. I would love to know. And if you still haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of my videos every Sunday and Thursday on how to work from home and how to have a business from home, which you guys can check out those two playlists right here and the latest video right here. Hope you guys have an amazing day, and remember that small steps matters. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!